I have about 7 or 8 minutes left, so I want to continue the topic of Hurricane Irma and the coverage of it and perhaps the politicization of it. Not with anything original, I don't claim to. I'm going back to Karl Denninger, what he writes at marketticker.org. I'm being careful to cite him. I'm just using his words, but I figure, if he gives me a cease and desist, so be it. I'm not claiming it's my own. I just want to make you aware of it because I don't think enough people read his stuff, and I think he's one of the best out there. So this is something he wrote. When did he write this? He wrote it today. It's called What If? I read it earlier. He writes, what if Irma was never even an actual Cat 1 hurricane at Naples? Does it matter? Sure it does. Remember, we were told how Irma was a hurricane for the record books and most intense storm on record. Of course, this is all part of the global warming screamfest and expected from such jackasses as Rachel Maddow. We rely on real news, not fake news, and made up bull bleep, however, when we make decisions that save or take lives. If NOAA and the NHC have become corrupted, then there is little left upon which we can rely. So with that, I offer this, which Eric Hunsader tweeted, and it's a graph. I can't do it justice without you seeing it. Look up Eric Scott Hunsader, Hunsader, on Twitter, and it's a chart of wind and air pressure when Irma made landfall at Naples, not even hurricane Category 1 level winds. So Denninger continues, this shows a strong tropical storm. Note that the eye went directly over that location. It's obvious from the graph. Hurricane wind speeds are defined not by the highest gust recorded, but by the highest 1 minute sustained wind speed. This was maybe a Category 1 hurricane at that point in time. Marco Island might have gotten a Cat 2 impact, maybe. But even as the approaching storm came into the Keys, I didn't see anything that looked like Cat 3 sustained winds. Gusts over 100, yes, those were reported, but sustained winds at Cat 3 speeds? Nope. Let me skip around again. You should go back to the original at marketticker.org. I'm not going to read you the whole thing. It's called What If, and it, as of now, is the most recent one. Okay, he concludes with this, or doesn't quite conclude with it, but this is what I'm going to conclude with before I get to a few comments. Was Irma a nasty storm? Certainly. It had a large circulation and did a hell of a lot of damage. But lying for political purposes is not acceptable when it comes to such storms, and it appears that both the NHC and NOAA have done exactly that. If you are making life safety decisions, you need accurate information, whether it is to choose to evacuate or not, or if you are attempting to plan government or other organizational responses. Lies for political purposes that exaggerate the severity of an incoming storm do real economic harm to real people. They cause them to spend money, close businesses, and otherwise disrupt their lives in ways that are not justified given the facts. And that, again, is what Karl Denninger wrote at his most recent piece at marketticker.org, titled simply, What If? I think I have a few more minutes left, so I am going to talk for about 4 minutes or so. Just some comments people wrote there. Someone wrote, on Sunday afternoon, I noticed ABC was doing non-stop coverage of Irma. One of their reporters in Naples was literally out in the storm trying to show us how intense it was. Of course, there were strong winds and rain, but if that was a Cat 3 or even Cat 2, nobody in their right mind would be standing in the street taking the full brunt of the weather. That's when I flipped off. Later in the evening, I saw a reporter standing in, quote, flooded downtown Miami. He was at Brickell and 14th. Know the area well. I know the area well. Sure, there was some street flooding, as expected, 2 blocks off the bay, but when they panned out, the sidewalks were dry. It seemed an awful lot like the reporter was trying to hide that this was a nothing burger. I feel bad for Houston as all this Irma hype took the focus off Harvey and the people in Texas really did get bleeped. Florida, not as much. Another comment. That explains a lot. I was monitoring personal weather station all over lower Florida, and none of them were reporting wind speeds reported by the press. Someone else? Can I be the bad guy on this? Perhaps overestimating it in an attempt to scare folks to evacuate, take real precautions to stop their daily lives, and take preparations in all seriousness is more the reason this occurred. Another comment. We got it much worse than expected in South Carolina. Like y'all didn't see the Armageddon as predicted. The skeptical part of me thinks it was pushed that way to help, quote, spur the economy, quote, forcing people to buy things and go places. Okay, wait, what else? Another. I'm about 40 miles north of Atlanta. We were predicted to get 5 to 8 inches of rain in this area, but we only got about 2 inches. The wind was predicted to pick up in the afternoon on Monday to about 40 miles per hour, gusting to 60 miles per hour. The wind finally got here at about sundown, but it wasn't nearly as bad as predicted. There were scattered power outages due to downed trees, but this was nothing like Opal back in 1995. I don't remember that one, but I guess I wasn't anywhere near Atlanta then. When Opal came through, the wind was gusting over 70 miles per hour. I had a large tree leaning on my house, and power was out for over 3 days. Irma was a serious storm, but not as bad as the media made it seem. I do believe that Irma scraping the northern coast of Cuba took a lot of the steam out of this monster. Another, I live in upstate New York, and I constantly compare my temps to the local NWS. Their temps are often higher by a few degrees. Yet I only live a few miles away, and I am at the same elevation. Of course, I don't live on a tarmac surrounded by airplanes, hot jet exhaust. Talk about BS. Yes, they are compromised to push an agenda. As soon as I heard it was a record hurricane in the Atlantic, my BS meter went to 100%. What was this based on? One probe dropped from a C-130? I'm sure a wind speed indicator on a plane has never given an erroneous number before. Controlling energy is really about controlling people. Pushing solar crap electric cars just to help the economy. Perhaps it goes further, i.e. to get us away from oil dependence, hence free us from Middle East horrors. What isn't a big lie? He writes, what isn't a big lie? Keep up the good work, Karl. Anything else? Just one last thing. Part of one last thing. I seem to recall Karl posting a similar review of the data after Matthew last year, and I was wondering if we would hear that this storm wasn't what it was alleged to be. I'm in Sebastian on the east coast of Florida, and it wasn't too bad, although based on damage to my roof and the neighbor's property, it looks like we probably had a very small twister spin up. Alright, so what I've been reading you has been, once again, in that part, I read the whole thing before, and that was just the comments to Karl Denninger's most recent piece as of now at marketticker.org. Remember, there's a hyphen between Market Ticker, and that is titled, What If? So I think that probably concludes all the coverage I've had of Hurricane Irma. You're probably sick of it by now. Tomorrow we will be back with Backlash. I may be traveling, probably not, from Memphis back to Florida, and we'll see what we have in store for tomorrow's show. Thank you for listening to Backlash with me, Adam Taxon, here on Shark Nation Radio.